In the mighty empire of Persia, King Ahasuerus ruled over 127 provinces. From India to Ethiopia, his power was unmatched. In the royal city of Susa, he held a grand feast, a celebration of wealth, glory, and pride. Golden goblets, marble pillars, silk curtains flowing in the air. The king displayed his greatness before the world. But in the middle of the celebration, destiny was quietly unfolding. Drunk with wine and pride, the king summoned Queen Vashti to display her beauty before the crowd. But Vashti refused. Her courage shook the palace. Anger burned in the king's heart, and in a single decision, the queen lost her crown. The throne beside the king stood empty, waiting for someone chosen for a greater purpose. Across the empire, young women were gathered, prepared with perfumes and oils. The king would choose a new queen. Among them was a quiet orphan girl, unknown, unnoticed. But heaven had already marked her name. Her name was Esther. Raised by her cousin Mordecai after losing her parents, she was beautiful. But more than that, she was humble. She entered the palace, not knowing that her life was about to change forever. The king saw her, and out of all the women in the empire, he chose Esther. The crown was placed upon her head. An orphan became a queen, but her greatest test was still ahead. In the palace served a man named Haman, proud, arrogant, hungry for honor. The king promoted him above all officials, and everyone was commanded to bow. Everyone, except one man. Mordecai would not bow to Haman, not out of pride, but out of faith. Haman's anger burned like fire, and what began as wounded pride turned into a deadly plan. Haman cast lots to choose the day, a day for destruction, not just for Mordecai, but for all the Jewish people. A decree was written and sealed with the king's ring. Death was scheduled. When Mordecai heard the news, he tore his clothes. The streets filled with weeping, fathers, mothers, children, all waiting for a day marked for their destruction. And in the palace, the queen did not yet know. Mordecai sent word to Esther, "Do not think you will escape. If you remain silent, help will rise from elsewhere. But who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" Esther trembled. To approach the king uninvited meant death, but destiny was calling. Esther called for fasting. For 3 days, no food, no water, only prayer. Then she spoke the words of courage. "I will go to the king, and if I perish, I perish." Fear turned into faith. A queen prepared to risk her life. Every step echoed in the silent palace as she walked toward the throne room. Guards watched. The king sat on his throne. Would he lift the golden scepter, or would this be her final moment? The king saw her, and he extended the golden scepter. Mercy replaced fear. Favor replaced death. God was moving, even in silence. Esther did not speak immediately. Instead, she invited the king and Haman to a banquet. Then, another banquet. Wisdom was working behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Haman prepared gallows for Mordecai. But heaven was preparing a reversal. That night the king could not sleep. He ordered the royal records to be read. And there it was. Mordecai had once saved his life, yet he had never been rewarded. A forgotten act, remembered at the perfect time. Haman came to request Mordecai's execution. Instead, the king commanded him to honor Mordecai publicly. The man who sought his death now led his parade through the city. What was meant for evil was turning for good. At the second banquet, Esther finally spoke. "My people have been sold for destruction." The king was shocked. "Who would dare do this?" Esther pointed across the room. "The enemy is Haman." The room fell silent. Judgment had arrived. The gallows built for Mordecai became Haman's own end. Pride had built it. Justice used it. But the story was not over yet. A new decree was issued. The Jewish people were allowed to defend themselves. On the day meant for destruction, they stood in victory. What was planned as a funeral became a celebration. Joy filled the streets. Mourning turned into dancing. Fear turned into freedom. And a feast called Purim was established to remember how sorrow turned into joy and how deliverance came at the perfect time.